Nas. So Allah starts with Allah, ends with An-Nas. Basically, Allah is saying, if you take the word An-Nas, the people, and you put it in the Holy Quran and replace it with any social verse where the word Allah exists, it will mean the same thing. For example, مَنْ ذَا الَّذِي يَقْرُضُ اللَّهَ قَرْضًا حَسَنًا. Whomsoever of you will lend Allah a goodly loan. Take the word Allah, put the word people. Whomsoever of you will lend the people. So basically these people are saying whatever you do for the people is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's the reason He created you. Because of what you do for others. The philosophers looked at this verse and says, well, we got something else for you. It says, we as philosophers, they're saying, not me, have divided creation into two. We call one wajib al-wujud. Wajib al-wujud meaning, what does wajib al-wujud mean in English? Anybody can help?
Necessary being.
Necessary, ahsant, brother Hassan. A duty to exist. He must exist. Because if he doesn't exist, nothing can exist. This camera don't exist. This does not exist. I can't exist. The fruits in the backyards, in your backyard, and the vegetables will not exist. Because there must be an essence of existence, wajib al-wujud, a duty to exist, to be present, that initiates you. If somebody goes outside and turns off the electricity, what happens in this place? Other than the fact everybody starts screaming over here. As if this wajib al-wujud is the power that gives life to everything else. Without that power, this masjid is, shut it down. Electrical bill is cheaper, but it's not operational. That's what we call wajib al-wujud. Wajib al-wujud could be only what? Allah. He has a duty to exist. Opposite Allah, there's everybody else. They call him mumkinul wujud. Mumkin. Everybody knows what the word mumkin means in Arabic. Mumkin is possible presence. Possible presence meaning you can exist. At the same token, there's a possibility that you cannot exist. There's a possibility I can exist or I cannot. Yeah. If I give you power, you exist. If I don't give you power, you don't exist. Everything. Well, how did I exist? These philosophers said, this is how you existed. He says, you existed. Who removed you from possibility of being present to being present, to actuality? They say Allah did that. Why? What's the reason that He did that? لَوْلَا دُعَاءُكُمْ. If it wasn't because of you coming to the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and preaching, becoming good role models, this is why Allah has brought you from that for this reason. He brought you from possibility of existing for this reason. What does that mean? Allah brought me from that. Why? I'm still not catching what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is intending. Well, as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying this, and the Quran is indicating to these. See, basically, what's your value? How much are you worth? What are you worth in my eyes? What are you worth in their eyes? How much are you worth? What's the dollar amount? Tell me the dollar amount. I'll write you out a check, and I will see if I can buy you, technically. Everybody has a value. Go back to the philosophers. Philosophers, they say, yeah, there is a value for everybody. And they divide this value into three things. They call it wasila takamul. A method of perfection. They say that initially, there's something called wasila takamul jasadiyya kharijiyya. Initially, you're one of three things. Either you are what you own physically. Is that you're what you physically own? Well, this guy is 6'2". That's wasila takamul jasadiyya kharijiyya. Meaning, this is one of he's 6'2". He has a nice voice. He's powerful, muscular. What happens to this value? Could you lose it? Absolutely, you could lose it. So it doesn't mean anything to us. We go to step number 2. Is this your value? Can I say, for example, Brother Hassan or Brother this, his value is 6'1". Do we give values according to that? Does a value like that live on? Absolutely not. Maybe value number 2. Value number 2, they say it's وسيلة تكامل خارجية غير جسدية. Meaning that, how much money do you have? How many buildings do you own? Would this go away? Of course it would. Can I say your value is the 2 buildings you own down the street on Colonial Drive? Would you be okay with such a value? Of course not. What's the actual value of a human being? What's the actual value when a kid goes to school, when your young kid goes to school? What kind of value do they look for? Who dropped them off? What kind of car they dropped them off in? What they're wearing to school? What kind of phone do they have in their hands? But that value will go away. It doesn't. When will it go away? As soon as you die, your 6-foot figure will die with it. As soon as you die, your money that you have or whatever will not make it to the grave. They don't have room for it. The only thing that lives is the third value, which is the value, we call it al-qima ruhiyya, meaning your spiritual value. What is my spiritual value? Wallahi, Brother Hassan is somebody with good akhlaq, good manners. He's somebody that he's a religious person. That's the one that stays. May Allah prolong life to everybody. 2 kids sit at the dinner table. They just lost their father. Do you ever hear them say, "May Allah have mercy on my father's soul. He was 6'1". May Allah have mercy on my father's soul. He had a lot of money. What do they always say when they remember you? How are you remembered? In what value? By your own kids. May Allah have mercy on my father. He was a good man. He was a role model. So actually the Quran here is telling us that your spiritual value is the actual value. And it's only your spiritual value that will make you capable of being a role model for what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you. If you're not that role model, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is basically saying, I want nothing to do with you if you don't have a spiritual value. To me, you do not exist. To me, you're useless. How do you instill a spiritual value? I know how to instill it in me. How do I instill it in the children? Have you ever heard this phrase by your children and tell me, and if I'm mistaken, tell me you're mistaken? Has your child ever said to you, Dad, whenever you want to try to bring them to the mosque, have you ever heard the phrase, or have you ever told your parents, Dad is boring over there? Has it ever been said? Why don't we bring our children, she's smiling, yeah, it's boring here. Why does a child say it's boring? Because as long as you instill this child with other values than spiritual value, how can it not be boring? Of course it's going to be boring. Right now the child is sitting there and thinking, oh my God, do I really have to go through this? Do I have to go through this every week? They call me to this place and there's somebody that's going to come start talking and my mind is going to go somewhere else. Do I have to go through this? Why does the child think like this? The child thinks like this for a very simple reason. I gave that child every value that he deserves, physically, whatever he wants, monetary, whatever he wants. The only thing I left him empty is I left him empty with spiritual value. I didn't instill that in him in order for him to come and say, I'd love to go over there, I want to learn something. There's a fact out there in the Christian world. The Christian world is losing all their children, so the church is gathering up to figure out a way, how come we can't find a way to recruit all our young people over here? We take them there, we dress them up. Every Sunday we dress them up with a suit, the best of clothing, we bring them to church. But yet these people are lacking. They don't have it in them. They can, oh, nah, do you have to take me to church today?